All right, I've got a great show for you guys. I'm going to be sharing some content that I wanted to put into a video yesterday. It's just as important today. There's so many stocks that I would love to cover for you guys. Amazon, Google, and Tesla. I'm going to briefly comment on Tesla. Tesla got bullish. It got into a weird place last week where it didn't seem to go as high as I wanted it to, didn't go as low as I wanted it to, but ultimately I knew that if it closed above $272, that it was going to be back off to the races. We got that close. I got back into it with some call options. I now see resistance at 289, but I think there's still a lot of momentum on this stock right now to the upside. I don't know where we'll get by when, but earnings is this Wednesday after market close, and in my view, there's a clear potential path for this to get all the way up to $320. And so I'm in it, but I'm just going to warn anyone who's not in it right now, or even is a long-term investor, be careful about DCAing at the top of the price range, because when this momentum cools off, we're going to find the lower ranges of the price range, the lower levels of support. Now we're at the top. We're testing the very top ranges of support. We're not talking about long-term investing. If you're a long-term investor and you believe that Tesla's going to have a stock split and get up to $500, then yes, you could buy right now. If you're swing trading or if you're a long-term investor that wants a better price entry, we're right here in a heated moment where the stocks had incredible momentum and has been pushing up higher and higher and higher for months and months and months. So be aware of that. But my video today is not about Tesla, Amazon, or Google. I want to cover those this week. I'd love to talk briefly about Alibaba. We hit the price target of $97, which was the top of the price range. And I said in my last video that we could easily come back and touch $91, and that's exactly what we did. We went up to 97, we came back to 91. So now we need to see if it holds this range and continues to move higher, or if this is still going to move sideways. There's good and bad coming out of China right now, and there's a ton of opportunity that if we get into a bullish trend, this thing can go way higher from here. That's why I'm keeping my eye on it. But let's get into the meat of this video, and there's a couple things that I wanted to point out to you guys in the Bitcoin chart, because a lot of you have been trading the miners, and a lot of you did, maybe some of you didn't take profits when it pushed up to the resistance that I gave you guys. Mara and Riot, I said it's going to hit that wall at around $20, which is exactly what it did, and it pulled back beneath that. So today I'm going to give you guys fresh support and resistance for where the miners could go, as well as I'm going to remind you guys of what I see happening with the miners over the next 6 months. It's a super important topic if you're a long-term investor in these, because these, you can make a ton of money in the miners, but getting in at the right time, at the right price is super critical to that. Now, here's what I see happening. I see two indicators I want to point out to you in the Bitcoin chart that tell me that we could yet have another spike up still to my target that I've been talking to you guys about for months now, which is around that 33 to 34K in Bitcoin. I'm going to show you two things in the chart which may be clues or signals that we still have room up to that price point. And here's the thing. Even whether you're trading Bitcoin or not, if we get another push up, all the miners will push from where they're at back up to key resistance and possibly beyond, depending on what price point we get with Bitcoin. And so there could be a huge amount of money to be made on these right now. But just as easily, if we move sideways, then they could continue to bleed off to differing levels of support beneath. And I want you guys to have those levels of support and those levels of resistance. Now, when I was thinking about this video, I had an old memory come to mind. When I was a kid, when I was around 8, 9, or 10, it was the early 80s, and I was originally exposed to a game on one of the first computers out there, or at least the first computers I ever laid my eyes on, which was a Commodore. It was Commodore 200 or Commodore 2000, I can't remember. But on that, my friend, who I saw, it was over at his house, he had the game of Pong. Now, I don't know if you guys know what Pong is. I mean, some of you will, some of you won't. But Pong was one of the very first video games that anybody was exposed to. And all it was a little white ball that bounced back and forth between two objects that you could control, right? You were playing a game. And I just wanted to comment. One, when I laid eyes on that when I was a kid, it was just absolutely mind-blowing that you could interact with a computer in what we viewed as a virtual reality space of digital this digital action of virtual reality space, which blew our minds. I mean, we were in awe at what we were seeing on the screen as that ball bounced between those two objects that you could move up or down. That was basically the game. Now, I'm going to show a real quick clip to you guys because I'm going to make a point about trading with the good old Pong game. So check this out real quick. Yeah, not terribly exciting. This thing could get faster and faster, and then it had some different dynamics that made it more challenging. But for the most part, what you're seeing is what you got. But here's what I want you guys to imagine, right? And here's how I think this can help you guys. So I want you to imagine that the ball represents price action in trading, and the movement from one side of the screen to the other is how a stock's price action will move between support and resistance. Because I think that a lot of people don't really understand that there is an area that it's moving towards, and then once it hits that, there's an area that it's moving back towards, right? This is really visually a great representation of trading. Some people are just not understanding that it's going to move all the way to the other side of the chart until it hits resistance, and then they're not understanding how important it is to identify resistance. I want to give you guys a quick glimpse of a game called Fortnite. Maybe you guys have seen it, maybe you've played it. I've never played it before, but it's really popular, and I just because I think it's humorous of how far games have gone. So just take a quick look at this clip. So yeah, you've got this player there that literally has the ability to gather resources, to build a structure, simultaneously fighting off other players. So yes, things have come a long way since Pong, way more interactive, and perhaps Fortnite represents some version of AI algorithm trading, but I haven't figured out that analogy yet. I just think a lot of you guys would benefit with just having a simple understanding of Pong and how it relates to trading, a simple price action move between support and resistance. You know, one of my successes in trading has been that I don't make it too complicated. Once I identify support and resistance, I hold to that largely that we're going to move between them. I take the time to identify those. That's why I give those to you in these videos, is so that you understand where it would make sense to get into a stock. You get in at support, you take profit at resistance. You've got a big picture, macro view, you've got the short micro view. The bottom line is that these markets are still going higher. It's Monday morning, and I'm going to tell you guys right now that on Wall Street, I see no sign of this bullish momentum ending just yet. Apple's had a nice little pop up today. Largely, I'm going to just give you a quick Apple technical. All right, I'm getting into some things I didn't intend to get into. But if Apple gets above 195, then that will confirm to us it's got to get above it and it's got to close. Right? That'll confirm to us the markets want to go up longer, and Apple's going to get up to $205. Right now, we're beneath 195. We've been largely moving sideways, and that tells me that the market is still in a bullish sentiment, but it's moving sideways, looking for reasons to continue the trek higher. This week, I'm going to get into an overview on where I think the overall markets are ultimately going to go. We've been going up for 6 months. We're in a bullish trend. We're still going up, but it doesn't mean that we're only ever going to go up. That's not the way the stock market works. When people begin to get comfortable and the bears jump on the bull side and we get parabolic moves, which we could be getting even this week, that's around the time that smart money will sell into the frenzy, and then we'll have a longer trek down where we go to find, just like that Pong ball, we're going to go back to the other side of the chart and find out, well, where is the long-term support? That's the game that we're playing on Wall Street today. So let me quickly get into Bitcoin. Let me quickly talk to you guys about two of the things I see that are super important, that tell me or give me clues as to where Bitcoin could be going, and that tells me where the miners could be going. So let's look at that real quick. All right, so what I want you guys to look at is the weekly chart of Bitcoin, and we're going to be looking at the candlesticks. Now on the weekly chart, each candlestick represents a full week in the market, and it's a longer term view. We're not looking at the minute chart, we're not looking at the hour chart, we're not even looking at the daily chart, we're looking at a much bigger weekly chart view. Now, the last week candle that we got, right, it could have been an inverse hammer. Some people could mistake it for a gravestone doji. Now, if it were a gravestone doji, it would actually be very bearish. It would tell us that we're at the top of the range and we're getting ready to have a sell-off. But if it's an inverse hammer, that's actually a bullish signal. So it's important to determine what kind of candle this is. Now, I believe that it's an inverse hammer and not a gravestone doji because of where it's positioned. Now, inverse hammers are often positioned in areas of sideways consolidation. Right after a push up, they're on a slight pullback, and that's exactly what we've got with Bitcoin right now. This isn't the peak candle. This one's appeared after the last 3 weeks in a 5-week period that we've been moving up, right? So we've moved up for 5 weeks. The last 3 weeks we've been moving sideways, and now we get this candle. But here's what an inverse candle represents. An inverted hammer candlestick may appear during an uptrend to indicate that buyers are getting ready to enter the market and drive prices much higher. For an inverted hammer to be valid, the candlestick should have a small body with a very long upper shadow, which is what I think we've got. So the price range right now in my mind is between 28.5 to the low side and 33 to the high side. We've not gotten to the 33 yet. But here's the second thing I want to point out to you guys in the chart. I want to show you guys descending lines of resistance. Now, depending on how you position these descending lines of resistance, this would give us an indication of where we could move up to get a long-term resistance line. And that could be anywhere all the way up to 34, 35,000, depending on where you put that line. But largely, I've spent a lot of time positioning that line, and I believe that if we position it in a certain way, we can get a move all the way up to at least 34,000. And here's where all of this goes. If Bitcoin has not peaked right now, which I don't believe it has, and if there's room to 34K, then all of the miners are going to go back up from where they're at right now, and they're going to test the top of the range that they just hit and or go higher. So there's money to be made here. And I'm going to give you guys fresh technicals on the miners. Real quick station break. If you guys need better trade tools, you want to check out the offer from the Moomoo investment app. They're giving away up to 16 stocks. It's a stock lottery. Each stock could be valued between $3,000 and $2,000. But what I specifically like about Moomoo is their earnings calendar, and we're in earnings season, and that's a season in which big money can be made. We're playing Tesla, Google, Amazon, and Apple right now for the pop in earnings. And so, yeah, you want to have the best tools available. I personally use the Moomoo investment app because I love their earnings calendar. You can click on the link in the top pinned comment. It'll give you all the details, and you can figure out exactly what the offer for free stock is. Check that out for yourself. It's only available in the US and Australia's got a different offer than the US. You'll find all of it in the top pinned comment. Real quick, thank you for hitting the like. Thanks for all the new subscribers that have joined the page recently. I also wanted to shout out a video that Larry did on his page on the miners, where he compared all the different miners and how they've been performing in comparison to each other. That was eye-opening for me because I haven't really looked at some of the smaller miners. My number one position has always been in Mara, and then I've dabbled in Riot. I've owned both of them at times, sometimes just Mara. But, you know, he went in and compared that some of the smaller miners have actually had a much bigger run up, being up 400% versus Mara and Riot being up 100 or 200%. So it's worth taking a look at the smaller miners. I'm going to give you technicals on all of them today, but I think his video did one of the best jobs of kind of bringing that to light about being in the fastest moving car. And I just got to shout out my good friend Larry Jones. If, you know, we all have different skills. I am good at, I think I've got a knack for the charts because I have passion for the charts and finding the gems, the truth, and the price entry in them. But having said that, There's a lot of different skills that come together to being a trader, and Larry is great at identifying momentum. And I tell you, if there is one thing that you can learn from that guy, it's how to get positioned in the fastest moving car. That's where his focus tends to go. I love that video he did. Check that out. All right, resistance for Mara. Right now, guys, I had told you that resistance for Mara was right under $20. And in this last run up, we saw that it was clearly defined as $19.75. So that will remain resistance, right? Now, if we were to break above that price and close, it means that there's going to be more momentum to the upside, and the next area of resistance that materializes in the chart, that next area that the ball can swing over and hit, would be around $25. Be right beneath it at $24.75. Now, support, so where we could pull back to. So the longer it takes Bitcoin to make that final move up, the miners will bleed off to different levels of support. The first one for Mara is going to be $15.40. The second one after that's going to be $12.10. And that would be awesome to get in that low, but I think largely I'm going to take a position on the first, and then I'm going to take an additional position on the second if we get there. That's how I'm thinking of playing it, but I'm going to also throw out this reminder. If you've not been making money on the miners moving up and you have no flexibility in your investment and you're just now getting in on the miners, you want to be extra careful because you could be getting in at the end of the run. And then this is often where sometimes a little bit of more money could be made. Sometimes the best money is the last 10%, and sometimes it's the worst place to get in. So I want you to be warned. Now on Riot, we have a tighter trade range, I've noticed, different than Mara. You know, they're both miners, but they both have their own story in the charts. The resistance for Riot is at $20.75, and the target, if we were to get above it, would be $25, which is kind of similar. But then the support range is much higher, and that's what we saw the last time that Riot pulled back. It's going to be $18.75 is going to be a key support, and then beneath that, $14.40. I'm not sure that Riot could get all the way back to 12 bucks the way that Mara could if Bitcoin takes a long time to make that final push up. But let me just quickly comment on that. Bitcoin has to make that run up, in my view, in the next 2 weeks, the next week, 2 weeks to the month. I don't believe that it's going to be prolonged after that. I think we're in a moment of time in which this is going to peak or not peak, and then after that, we're going to have a good solid 4 months to even 5 months of it bleeding off slowly. So this is a do or die moment for Bitcoin and the miners, and, you know, for the short term. The long term, we're going to get to the halving event in 2024, and we're going to have a huge markup phase, but we're not there yet. We're in a point in which we're having a peak, a bleed off for about 4 to 5 months right before we begin to turn around and move up for the halving event. All right, CleanSpark, CLSK, $7.50 is resistance. If it were to break above it, it could go as high as $9, but don't be greedy. Don't go from being a bear to a hog and think if you got all the way up to $9 on CleanSpark or even back to $8 that you guys would have a ton of extra money to be made there. There is clear reasons why these levels are resistance. There's a clear reason why the smart money would sell at these points. Those are the areas of resistance, $7.50 and then $9. Now support for the short term, this would be not long-term support, but short-term support, $6.80, and then beneath that, $5.40. That would be, if we're going to have another push up, $5.40 would be a bargain buy. All right, HUT. Now, HUT begins to get interesting as per Larry's video, where you get this higher trade volume on these smaller cap miners. HUT's daily trade volume last Friday jumped 100%, which shows you that a lot of people are getting interested in these smaller miners. Now, the target that I gave you guys before was $4.60, and if you were in tune with Stocks with Josh, you would have made great money because it went all the way up to $4.55 and it's since pulled back. Now, the top of the range we could potentially get for HUT would be $4.89. So $3.80 and $2.80 would be support in the meantime for HUT. Now, Bit Mining, BTBT. I've got 2 more to cover. This one's also interesting because of the daily trade volume is up 120% this last Friday. Now, resistance, I keep it simple, $5.30, support $3, for BTBT. Okay, the last one is Argo. Never talked about it before, but because Larry brought these smaller miners to my attention, I decided to look into which ones were the best. Argo deserves to be on the list. Now, Argo's trade volume this last Friday was 330%. That shows people are interested in Argo, but you know, these smaller cap miners are going to be more risky. They're going to have the least amount of resources to invest in new equipment to be better prepared going into the next bull run. So they're going to have the highest potential for a pop-up, but they're also in a different risk level than Mara and Riot. I'm personally going to remain largely invested in Mara and Riot, or at least swing trading those. I'm going to do a longer term investment right before the Bitcoin halving event that I'm going to then hold for 1 year or 1.5 years until Bitcoin hits the top of its cycle. But at the meantime, right now, I am only swing trading the miners. They're not worth DCAing into, in my opinion. But let me just give you guys some technicals on Argo. Support right now is at $2, and then beneath that at $1.25. Resistance is at $2.70, and above that at $3.70. That's your Pong trade range, guys. Getting old school here with investing. Guys, that's it. That's all I got for you today. So many stocks I'd love to talk about. We will talk more about Tesla going into tomorrow, as well as some of my other big plays. I was able to join you guys in the chat group today. If you guys enjoy the Moo chat, then throw a heart in the comment section for me and say hi. As always, thanks for the likes. Thanks for joining this community by hitting this subscribe and the all YouTube notification bell. That's it. We'll talk again tomorrow. Peace and blessings. Take care.